Go vote. Yeah, man. Like we said earlier, there's so many angles. We covered the education angle. We covered the medical angle with Dr. Hoa. We kind of touched a little bit on the spiritual side with Roman de la Cruz. And now let's turn it over to the businesses, right? So as we anticipate a change in the pandemic condition of readiness status, what a lot of people are thinking about is our economy has just, in many ways, picked itself up off the ground. And now
making baby steps, right?
Baby steps, right? I mean, places have been open. Whether or not people have money to go to those places is, I guess, but people have been doing business. And so I got the message from Christine Boleto, the chamber president. You wanted to come on, and right, this is an important part of this conversation too. It's another angle that we're looking at. And obviously, I know you guys are really concerned about what the announcement will mean for members of the Chamber of Commerce. Christine, good morning.
Good morning, Christine.
Good morning.
Let's just get right into it. What do you know?
Well, right now we don't know anything for sure. A lot of the word that's been going around as far as what the governor will do is kind of hearsay. We're getting it through third-party messages. And so I'm actually looking forward. I just got word today that the governor is calling an advisory panel meeting this morning at 10, which I hope, we'll be able to not only understand what her position is, what she's planning to do, but also to advocate for the businesses out there that stand to close if we move back to PCOR1. And of course, our position has always been that businesses employ people. As you mentioned, we're just in the phase of recovery. We're trying to rebuild at this point. A shutdown would lead to more businesses permanent closing, more people losing their jobs. We have pandemic employment assistance right now, but that's not going to last forever. And the more we decimate our economy, the more difficult it's going to be as, we come out of this for people to be able to buy food, to pay their rent, and to provide for the basic necessities for themselves and their families. And so that's a big concern, and we totally understand that we need to balance it. There were triggers that were established as we started to go into a recovery. Those 4 triggers have not reached a critical level as far as we know. We're at about 2.6 in cases, positive cases. Our hospitalization is at 8. We're not resorting to critical care. Contact tracing has been robust, and we feel like public health is doing a great job with that. And we continue to test and be able to test our population. So given those, we are as concerned as the governor is. We totally understand when she needs to pull back on certain sectors that have been traced to be the root of all of these infections. And so we totally support that approach, that targeted approach. But an island-wide shutdown, which will kill our economy and basically punish the businesses and the employees that have been diligently carrying out these guidelines, we feel is not the way to go. We're in this together. We understand that we need to redouble our efforts. The whole community needs to remember to follow the public health guidelines, to wear their masks, wash their hands, maintain social distancing. We totally agree with all of that, but we sincerely hope that she will allow us to remain open, allow people to continue to be employed, and have that balanced approach.
But for those, you see it as a punishment, like you just said, but for those, others may see it as a precaution, as a pause, at least just for 2 weeks. That's not something that the chamber can deal with?
Such a pause, almost weekly we're seeing businesses close. Such a pause, we've not even recovered at this point. And again, if you look at those clusters and the tracing of it, it's not happening in the retail stores. It's not happening in real estate, automotive, salons, our shopping centers, our gyms, golf courses. And so, again, a balanced approach. We understand the precaution, and we certainly understand and agree with delaying the opening of schools or not doing the face-to-face, but for those businesses and employees that have been diligently carrying out these safety protocols and it's working, it's over precaution at the expense of, closures that have a long-term effect on our economy. Mm-hmm. So, again, we've said from the beginning, public safety, public health is always going to be the first priority. Mm-hmm. But in this situation, we're asking for consideration and acknowledgement that those in the business community that have diligently implemented these protocols and that, based on the positive cases and where the tracing happens, it's not originating from them. We're asking for that consideration and for us to continue to show that we can responsibly operate these businesses. We can responsibly take care of our employees and customers without resorting to a shutdown.
Mm-hmm. Right. Is that what you're hearing, though, officially? About we're shutting down retail stores, we're shutting down gyms. Is that what you heard?
There's nothing official at this point. Again, everything is coming through third party, basically WhatsApp messages, Facebook, and so forth. I actually just received the governor's Facebook message that was done yesterday morning where she said, we're going to remain at PCOR3 and, she targeted those areas where there were traces to how they originated. And again, we completely agree. I mean, we wish her well, her family, and certainly all of those that have been tested positive. But, that message to me was really a balanced approach. And again, we haven't heard anything official. Everything has been, through word of mouth. And I'm hoping today at our 10 o'clock meeting that we'll get, that same message that she did on Facebook, that she will continue to target areas that she feels is at high risk or who has basically let down their guard, and that's what resulted in these positive cases, but allow those of us out there that have done a good job, protecting, again, our customers, our employees, and who have been operating well, give us the opportunity to continue so we don't, again, decimate the economy any further.
Right. Christine, the governor, was on yesterday. She said dining in, she doesn't want it anymore. Bars, there's places where, restaurants and bars. We just had Dr. Ho on. I mean, we have cases linked to restaurants and bars. So, and that being said, I mean, closing down dining in and keeping the bars closed, I mean, if that was the minimum with the restrictions, how would that affect you guys? And would that be, I mean, I know it's a bitter pill to swallow, but it is what it is, right? I mean, we have to balance.
Yes, and agreeable. Like if we trace it back to these areas, these sectors within our business field that is basically linked to these positive cases, then, we completely understand. It is a hard pill to swallow, and it's unfortunate that, just isolated incidents basically, affects everybody in that particular sector. But, we understand, that in those cases that needs to be the position. But when we talk about PCOR1, if we look at what the restrictions are on PCOR1, it's massive shutdown. And that's the rumor that's flying around. Yeah. If it's a targeted approach, if it's a balanced approach, I've said, and the chamber has communicated to the governor, we support you and we'll work with you. But going all the way to PCOR1 and taking us back to a total island shutdown is not something we support.
Mm-hmm. What about PCOR2?
PCOR2, we just have to, because we remember when we went to PCOR2, there was PCOR2 light, PCOR2 full. So we're not sure what PCOR2 means for
we want PCOR2 sugar free.
Yeah, we want
gluten-free PCOR2.
Full Zoom.
Right. Okay.
So again, I mean, when she came out and she, relayed to us that it was traced back to funerals, it was traced back to bars. We were in that panel meeting, and again, it's a hard pill to swallow, and we feel bad for the businesses that have been diligently carrying out these protocols, because the few that let down their guard and caused these spikes, basically affect, everybody in that sector. And so, we feel bad for them, but we understand that she does have to take action when, these spikes happen and the clusters develop because of a few who have not diligently carried out those protocols.
Right.
And that targeted approach, we support, again, even with the schools, we know there's some students out there that still want to go to school, surprisingly, but we understand, there's a lot of risk associated with putting all the students in the classrooms. And so, the targeted approach, again, we really support. We're all in this together. We need to work through this. But just a massive, complete shutdown is
Right.
where we're really concerned with.
Christine, let me play devil's advocate here. When you talk about a targeted approach, right? So if you look at the target, the restaurants, the bars, we saw Crust, we saw Three Squares, we saw, right. So it kind of seems like if you want to talk about targeting, it's widespread. I mean, we have cases at a bunch of different restaurants. So how would you respond to maybe the thought that this is targeting an industry that is,
if you look at all of those instances, an employee tested positive that went to work. The other employees within those establishments, those businesses closed down of their own accord. And to me, that is a prime example of how the business community has taken responsibility. Again, all of us want to make sure that the public health and safety is at the forefront. Those businesses took it upon themselves to shut down. They had all their employees tested. To my knowledge, no other employee within those establishments, other than the one that tested positive from tracing from family associations or things outside of that restaurant, not because they contracted it within that restaurant. So we need to make that distinction and understand again that we really should be commending these businesses for their, not only due diligence, but, for having that courage to shut down on their own and admit to the public, we've had an employee test positive. These are the precautions that we're taking. And out of an abundance of caution, we're just simply going to shut down, sanitize, and make sure that our employees are okay. What more can you ask of a business to do to protect its employees and customers?
Right.
Well, Christine, as we before we let you go to prepare to plead your case at this meeting at 10 o'clock.
You better bring donuts or something. Oh, it's in a Zoom.
Oh my gosh.
But
If it was the drinking time, I take a drink this morning.
Hey, we're not judging.
Yeah.
We're living in a COVID bitch era, so anything goes.
But no, I wanted to ask, you wrote a letter, or the chamber wrote a letter to the Guam legislature regarding the FY21 budget process.
Right.
If you could go through
Yes,
that.
we have been in communication directly with several senators. Also, of course, the budget is a large part of the budget has to do with GRT collections, income tax, and corporate tax. And, again, the business community and the employees that are in it have had to take a hit this last year. So it's just, we ask them to make sure they consider with their budget estimates the impact that has been made on the private sector. And on top of that, again, we'll continue to advocate for relief for our business community. We're going to continue to advocate for the rollback of the GRT, as well as the moratorium on the $1 million or more increase in property tax, to give our businesses a chance to survive. And so again, we've been seeing weekly businesses shutting down, and every time I see that, I think of the employees that worked there, the people that counted on those jobs to buy food, to pay their rent, to support their family. And so, this pandemic assistance, it's not going to last forever. By the government's own admission, they're not going to be able to afford the matching requirement to get more assistance in here. So who's going to pay our people? How are our people going to be able to pay their bills? Right. And I mean, we need to be very, very concerned about that.
Christine, we're really praying. I prayed on it last night. I hope that there's some kind of middle ground, some kind of compromise that you guys and the governor and the doctors can come to, because again, this is part of it. People out of jobs. No one wants to see that, right? But we also don't want to see more COVID than we're seeing now. So I really hope there's some kind of
Absolutely.
compromise for you guys.
Right.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you so much.
Now you
Have a
come
good
on,
morning.
yeah, come on Monday. Let us know. Okay.
Okay,
If they
will
piss you
do.
off, we'll give you the floor Monday, and you just talk for an hour.
I'll hold you to that.
Yeah, I guarantee. Promise. Wash your hands.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay, Esther.
Thank you.
8:26. I'm gonna take a really super short break. Daphne, I see you looking great in the Zoom room. Lighting's fine. We're gonna get you and give me like a minute.